Wow, perfectly timed for the tripod to break while I'm on vacation and can't get another one. I'm about to be isolated on the beach with my family for a week, so I brought like over 10 books with me, and we're going to see how many 5-star reads I can find. Death of late night television as we know it, folks, were in it. Maybe I want to be mysterious with my reads. I'm trying to understand a complex emotion and not just off the bat get annoyed. But I want to get annoyed. I really don't need to over-explain it. The video is just in fact that, but I did want to show you guys all of the books that are going to be on the radar. And of course, this is going to be mood reading, so I will be constantly checking Libby to see if they have any skip the line copies. And speaking of skip the line copies, I actually have the first book that I finished for today's video, which is We Used to Live Here. I finished this one this morning when I woke up, and we had to drive from Pensacola to here where we are staying. And so before we had to leave our Airbnb this morning, I went ahead and finished this one. If you guys watched my fall vlog, I started this one, picked it up. I think I got like 30% into it. The book We Used to Live Here, this is a horror novel. And in this, you are following our main character, Eve. And Eve and her partner, Charlie, just bought this kind of older house, and basically they're going to renovate it when all of a sudden one night somebody shows up at her front doorstep, and it is a man with his family, and he tells her, "Hey, I used to live here. This was my childhood home. Is there any way I can come in and show everybody around?" And that is the loose premise of the story that you're following. I have been talking about for a while now how I'm wanting to dive into horror, because I feel like me and mystery and thrillers have been just kind of on the outs with each other a little bit recently. I feel like I have not rated a just strictly themed in genre mystery and thriller in a while. I feel like it doesn't get my heart racing and my mind racing the way that horror novels could. So I picked this one up with a lot of hope, because also I've been seeing some discourse about this one and people really enjoying it. I will say that I was one of those people. I ended up actually giving this one a 4.5 stars. At one point when I was finishing it this morning, I literally did a and like my mind was reeling after reading like towards the end of this book. And the ending was actually one of my favorite parts, because I love an ending, especially in the horror genre or mystery thriller, whatever it is, where you can talk about it. Like other people who have read the book, you can kind of talk about what went on and the creepy stuff that was in this book and what the ending means and what do you think happened and all of this stuff. It is so good. And also the plot of this was actually so eerie and scary that as I was leaving the Airbnb this morning, I was like rushing out of the door to leave after finishing this book. And I feel like when you finish a horror like that, it gives you the same feeling that you feel after watching a scary movie that spooked you a bit. That's the feeling that I've been chasing. So I was so glad that I found it in this book. So We Used to Live Here, 4.5 stars. Actually, probably my favorite in this genre that I've read in the year, and definitely one of my faves of the year, just because it did what it was supposed to do and it was very interesting. Now let me show you all of the other books that I brought on vacation with me. First of all, we have my current read, The God of the Woods, which we will get to in a second. Then we have the rest of the books in this bag. Next up, we have The Wedding People, The Paradise Problem, Sandwich, The Perfect Couple, The Breakup Pact, Daydream, Wild Eyes, Book Lovers, The Four Winds, Just Last Night, The X-Files, Haunted Ever After, Love of My Afterlife, and The Fiancé Dilemma. 16 books with me for a week's vacation. Now listen, all I want to do on this week's vacation is to sit and read. That is all I plan on doing. So I feel like we can knock out quite a bit of these books, and maybe even some other ones if I end up wanting to mood read elsewhere with this. I'm not going to be too strict with it, because that's how you start book slumps, ladies and gentlemen, forcing yourself to read books that you are not in the mood for. Now let's talk about my current read, which is The God of the Woods. But let's talk about it in the place in which I'm reading it, which is my bed. Wait, don't go anywhere. Before we get into the reading for today's video, I want to say a thank you to today's sponsor, which is none other than Squarespace. You guys know I talk about them all the time on the channel. They are the best way to build your website if you are looking to build a website for literally any reason under the sun. And some of the best parts is that Squarespace makes it as easy as possible for you. You just log on to Squarespace. You can look through so many templates that they have, so many different customizations to make your website look the exact way that you want it to look, that fits your personal brand and style. From there, they offer so many different tools to help you keep that website going and as successful as possible. They have so many different data and analytics that you can use if you're running a business, storefront, any type of thing that you are running on there. They give you as many tools as possible to help keep that flow going. And my favorite thing, if you are running a format like a blog or something similar, Squarespace makes it very seamless and easy to just go into all of your different social medias that you may have them all linked in one place. That way everybody can find you like that. So if you guys are interested, as always, head over to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And when you guys are ready to launch, head on over to squarespace.com/JustiniSidwell to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Let's get into doing some chat about the God of the Woods. You guys already know, if you are a frequent viewer of my channel, that as soon as I bring out a hardback, the cover of it's coming off. Okay, don't worry. It is on the floor right next to my bed. Those of you who have never heard of the God of, what is this called? Those of you who have never heard of the God of the Woods may be asking, Destiny, what is this book all about? Well, I'm here to tell you. Actually, let me look it up on Goodreads because I want to get the genre right, especially before judging this book. I really want to make sure I know the genres that it's categorized as. On Goodreads, it says it's a mystery fiction thriller, mystery thriller. So it looks like we're going with our mystery thriller here. Now, if you guys know me, you guys know one of the top things that I say when talking about mystery thriller books is the length of them. I feel like, in my personal and humble opinion, thrillers / mysteries do not need to be over the 350 page count. Now, I want you guys to ask me, Destiny, how many pages is The God of the Woods? We're at almost 500. Just a little quick mini rant. I feel like, in my personal opinion, thrillers need to hit that 350 and not much over page mark, because I feel like your attention span when it comes to a thriller is very short. And what I mean by that is that when you're reading a thriller, you don't want it to go on for 500 pages. You want it to wrap up in a very timely manner. You want it to be fast paced. That's probably why you're picking up the thriller. I'm not signing up for almost 500 pages. That being said, I'm not counting that against the book. It's just very hard to, ignore. Listen, one of the most highly talked about thrillers right now. I have seen pretty much nothing but good things about this book. Kind of a little bit insane. This author was even on one of the Tonight shows that happens on late night television that I do not watch, because if my television is on late at night, I am watching a streaming service. Death of late night television as we know it, folks. We're in it. Anyway, back to the book. Like I said, author was on the Tonight show. I feel like this book is gaining a lot of hype. What this book is about, because I actually started this a month ago. I got like 8% into it, not very far. Basically, what I see is there are like two different timelines. Basically, I think in both timelines, a girl at the camp goes missing, and you're kind of dealing with like rich families, like a bunch of rich kids from rich families go to this camp, and you're kind of reading the point of view. That is the loose premise of this book. I am very intrigued, partly because I have been in my little like horror mystery thriller vibe lately. I don't know if it's because I'm wanting it to be fall so bad and I'm in that spooky season vibe, especially after reading our last read, which is We Used to Live Here. I was very much into that vibe. I wanted to pick up another one, so that's why we're picking up this one, because it was the only other mystery thriller that is giving you that same feeling. So we're picking up this one. I don't know. I want to be surprised by it because I'm very weary going into it. I'm going to continue reading this one, turn the lights off, and get real spooky up in here. without a tripod is not all it's made out to be. I don't think it's made out to be anything. A little bit of a reading update. I'm still reading The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hildebrand. I will say that I recently, unfortunately and unknowingly really, turned back on after like a year of having this turned off. On my Kindle, you can turn it on or off as like when you read something on your Kindle, you can mark it as like currently reading on Goodreads. So now if I even like click on a book in my Kindle library and like open it just to see what's going on in it, it'll be like, Destiny's currently reading this. And then it acts like I'm in the middle of like 15 different books. When all reality, unless I'm doing updates for a book, like unless I am actively updating, I'm not actually in the middle of reading the book, which I should honestly probably just turn it off. Maybe I want to be mysterious with my reads, but I do share them on the internet, so like how mysterious are you really? The Perfect Couple, Ellen Hildebrand. I am currently about 100 pages into this right now, and I will say I am thoroughly entertained by it. I've been eating it up, and all I've been thinking about is how badly I want to watch the show. If this is the first TV or anything that has been developed from Ellen Hildebrand's novels, I don't see how, because I feel like her books are pure drama, pure chaos, in like the most intoxicating way possible. I say this every single time I'm reading an Ellen Hildebrand book. I literally feel like it's a book you would see like your rich wine hand, like a woman who's older with no responsibility. Like just reading this, but I find them so entertaining. I eat them up. It's like a episode of The Desperate Housewives for me. There's always like little things that she puts in here that make it, you know, mysterious. I do think though today was like a gloomy day, and I just think that her books are meant for me to read when it is sunny and nice outside. So I got like 100 pages into this, and I don't think I'm going to continue this right now. But also, before I close my thoughts on this book so far, there is one of our main characters' name is Karen, and this is told in the third point of view. And so reading it and being like, Karen thinks this, Karen is going to do this, it makes me laugh inwardly because of what we have like in modern day since this book came out. I think this book came out in like 2018. Since then we have, you know, coined the term Karen. And so it's just funny, like having a main character named that and then reading it in the third person point of view. And it's just like, it doesn't leave your brain. However, as you may be able to tell, we are again doing an update at night. So I want to go over to my Kindle. Last night, I don't know if you guys saw, but directly after I told you guys I'm going into the God of Woods, I was like, ooh, it's nighttime and I don't want to like hold a hardback. Charlie? Hello, hello. Got my dog up here. She was downstairs, not coming up, but now that she has. Picture this, I'm in bed. I'm trying to leisurely read in my bed, and having a like 500-page hardback was just not working with my leisure in that scenario. So I pick up my Kindle. I obviously don't have the God of Woods on my Kindle because I missed my chance with my skip the line copy. So I just started reading the literal first page of this book and then immediately went to bed. Like when I tell you guys that I read the whole entire first page, I think I'm literally maybe still on the first page if we open this up. I literally read this much and directly fell asleep after. We're gonna be back in that scenario, except I'm just going to dive straight into my Kindle library. So I actually think I might start Wild Eyes because that's on Kindle Unlimited. I'm going to start this book. I think I already read the first chapter, or I read like a blurb of this that was at the end of Wild Love. So very excited to go into this one. I do want to turn on Reba. I'm actually already giggling at the screen because if this is their banter the whole entire time, it kind of reminds me of like the banter between Cade and Willa, which is good. Pulled over trying to tell her, hey, she's like recording this bear that's like in the ditch, and he pulls over and he's trying to, you know, get her attention, explain to her that she should probably get away from the bear. And he says, she shakes her head, continues glaring, you know what I'm being sick of? Is it living? I bite out. Like I'm just imagining it in my head. Like It probably didn't sound all that whatever when I said it out loud, but in my head, just like imagining the interaction. Oh, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Listen here, everybody. Hello, everybody. I am back upstairs because I'm in the room. This is the view currently. I don't know if you guys can see anything because I can't see the camera, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a reading update. Right now, I'm reading Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, and I am currently 54% into the book right now, and I will say, Elsie, we're on first name basis now, purely because of me. Not because there's interactions that elicit me being on, you know, first name basis, but in my brain we are. You have done it again. You have done it again. Constantly raising the bar for us all. When it comes to the small town romance, love interest, like the guy in the book, she just knows what she's doing. Specifically with West, I love, he does these cute little like email things that you know about if you go into the books. You'll know what I'm talking about. That within itself, like even just something that simple is so thoughtful, and I've been obsessed with the to be loved is to be known. That whole entire saying. I've been obsessed with it, right? And I love when the main guy is giving that, like giving the to be loved is to be known, and they do things for the female main character to show them that they are listening. They're using the ears that they were given. You know, I love to see it personally, especially when it's fictionalized, because it's usually just raising the bar for us all. Now I'm like over halfway into it, and I've been eating it up. I was sitting down at the beach earlier, just literally like it was a meal. The beach, and stopped reading it, and I've had to take a shower and grab a snack, and now I'm sat. Okay, I'm in my bed. I'm sat. I'm ready to continue reading. I also have to give this to Elsie Silver. She has the ability to make me enjoy kids in books. Usually, I do not really love, like, no kids scenes in other books makes me do the whole like, oh, this is so sweet, this is so cute. But in every single one of Elsie's books, when she has kids involved, she knows how to write them to make me like absolutely be like, that is so adorable. Like, I feel like I kind of rant about kids in books all the time, but Elsie just knows how to do it to make them enjoyable and endearing. I have to pop back in and just reiterate to you guys that I have never enjoyed kids in a book more than I am. Like, this is actually adding so much to the story. And when I tell you guys, like, if you guys do not enjoy kids being like part of the book, trust me, I am the same exact way. I just kind of most of the time put them in the background of my mind and don't pay a whole lot of attention to them, because most of the time I feel like authors write kids in this way where it's like they don't know how. Not, that sounds really harsh, but most of the time it feels true. I've heard my endless child rants in books, which is also, to tell you guys again, usually an enjoyer of kids in the books, but this is just so endearing and cute, like something from the start of the book that has been discussed that keeps coming back up. It is so funny and cute, and it incorporates the kids, and then also she just had a moment with the son that was literally so sweet and adorable. Like, I'm actually smiling out loud. Smiling out loud. This book is great. Like, actually great. I love it. What? I'm trying to understand a complex emotion and not just off the bat get annoyed. But I want to get annoyed. Oh my god, that's so cute. This is so cute. You know, in moments like this, when I am just so overjoyed with the romance book that I'm reading, like, romance books are so fun. They're so fun. How can you hate them? They're so fun. I love this book. Okay, guys, I have to update you. Where'd it go? Where is it? Okay. I just finished Wild Eyes. I was about to call this Wild Love. A little bit ago, I needed some time to just think on this book because as you guys saw literally in the footage, I was just enjoying it so much. This is a 5-star read for me, which is insane because I did not expect this, because in this same exact video that I filmed a few months ago, the concept of like how many 5 stars can I find in one video, Wild Love and Just for the Summer, that's when I found my first 2 5 stars of the year. Did not expect them, did not expect to absolutely eat up Wild Love, because going into Wild Love, I had only read all the books in the Chestnut Springs series, and all of those books were 4 stars and above. The only 5-star in that series was the second one, which is Heartless, and that became a 5-star like after the fact, like after I thought on it and like couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, that one's a 5-star. I consider Chestnut Springs a 5-star series because I love the series and the characters, and usually with series like this I may have like a one-off 5-star, or maybe none of them are 5 stars, but I consider the series within a whole of 5 stars. It may not make a whole lot of sense, but hey, this is just my rating, you know? Going into Wild Love, did not expect to rate it a 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. Going into this one, I think it'll be around like a 4, 4.5, like just like to guess going into it, because I love the characters that we've built up in this series. I love them so much. Also, I feel like Elsie Silver's writing has shifted. If you even go back and read her first series and then go and read Chestnut Springs, I feel like the writing just keeps getting better. I feel like she builds upon like what needs fixed in books. You can just tell that she actually takes time to consider what to move forward with in her books, and they just keep getting better. They just keep getting better, and this one is a 5 stars for me as well. I literally did not expect to have multiple books in this series of 5-star. I thought, oh, maybe I'll love Wild Love out of the gate. This one was so good. Love the way that these two characters communicate and the way that he understands her. Also just the type of characters that she writes. I loved him because he's kind of written as this golden retriever. Everybody loves him, but he is fiercely protective of everybody around him. And obviously he has kids, it's single dad. But also I think what really did this book for me was because I saw myself so much in Skylar within the internal things that she struggles with. Like one of the big things that she struggles with, kind of public appearance, public image wise, all of that talk in this book literally did strike a chord with me. It was a little triggering, not in a bad way, but like, you know, I don't need relatability 100% in my books. I don't even really need to relate to the character. I can feel sympathy, love, anything for characters, even if I personally have not went through those things. I am nothing if not sympathetic and very much emotional towards other people and what they go through. So I don't need to relate. A element of relatability is always something that I find I really enjoy in books. I could relate to Skylar in so many different ways. Not in every way. Like this, she's not a carbon copy of myself, but there were things I could relate to of her. The kids in this book, I swear, I went on this rant already. I do not enjoy kids in books. They're just not my thing. I don't feel like they ever really add to the story. I feel like they're there for the trope and they don't add anything. However, in this book, the kids add so much to the story. It adds to West as a character, it adds to Skylar's development, it adds to conflict within the relationship, not in the way that you may be thinking, but in a way that made sense. If any conflict came up in the story, it didn't anger me and it didn't annoy me because it was very realistic. And I feel like I literally said this in Wild Love, that the conflict within that book as well, because you know, like romance, like there's conflict within the story. You know, I don't like the whole entire third act breakup conflict. I actually loathe it. However, specifically with Wild Love in this one, I feel like she writes them in a way that's realistic. I think my gripe with third act conflicts or breakups, or both in most cases in books, is that it just feels like you wrote it to have a conflict before the end of the story. With Elsie Silver, I feel like in majority of her books, if I'm remembering correctly, most of them that I've read, the conflicts make sense, and it also makes sense to have this conflict within the relationship because it's like not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and you do and will have conflicts, and it's important to see how the couple uses that conflict and how they come out of it to see the longevity of the relationship and how they communicate through issues together. And so sometimes conflicts can help with the way that you feel about the relationship, but if they are done right. Because if it is a stupid conflict, which I find a lot in books, and the reason that I don't like it is because it makes me not like the couple, because I do not like the way that the conflict came up. I do not like the way that it was handled. It doesn't seem like this is going to be a healthy relationship from said conflict. I'm saying all of this to say that I feel like Elsie Silver does hers right, specifically with Wild Love and in this book, probably because they're the most fresh in my memory, is that the conflict feels real of what would actually happen in a real relationship. Of course, it's fictionalized, so it's like kind of giving all sunshines and rainbows, and like it would not be this simple and easy, I fear, but still it feels more realistic, and I just enjoy it. I loved the two characters, the chemistry that they had. I really loved it. I loved it all in all. I loved the series. Also, there were little blurbs at the end for the next book that I already can't wait for. Like, I already can't wait. That one feels like it's going to pack a little bit more of an emotional punch, and also it's going to be serving, like, I don't want to say enemies to lovers, but like that in romance format. We need to find a word for it. Disdain to lovers. That's what I'll start saying. Anyway, get that movement going, guys. Wild Eyes, we found our first 5-star read of the video that I honestly did not expect. I thought this one was going to be like a 4.5 around there, but I really am gushing about this book. So Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver found our first 5-star. Conflicted, because I feel like I'm on a romance kick right now after reading that one and absolutely loving it, but I don't want to like really drive that into the ground and then make myself tired of romances by not reading enough of the good ones. I'm gonna put the red books to the side. I want to do, there's a bug. I separated everything into 2 piles as of right now. So these are the books that kind of are at the top of my reads, like the ones that I really want to read. I also have 2 over on the nightstand. The ones that I really want to read are right here. So we have The Love of My Afterlife. Just last night, the reason I'm very excited about this one is because Haley was going on and on about the writing, and I find that very intriguing. We have The X-Files. Sarah has been raving about this one. Can't remember if she ended up bumping this up to a 5. I'm gonna need to rewatch her wrap up. And then of course we have Daydream, which is my book club's book pick of the month. Anyway, I also have The Paradise Problem, which I've already started. I'm a little bit into. I started that a few months ago. Kind of was wanting to continue that one just because I'm already into it, but it's like 30 pages in. I'm not like super far into it, but also it's not a very long book. Let me pick it up. We have The Paradise Problem. However, it is a little bit gloomy today. Earlier it was a little bit sunny, so we did get to kind of sit out for like the 5 minutes that the sun was out. Okay, Sarah was telling me that she was really enjoying this when she read it, and I am on page 31 right now. But this is the one that I'm kind of gravitating towards, like that I want to read. I feel like though, after I read another romance, I'm like scared to burn myself out with it, so I might want to go to one of my like more literary reads that I brought with me. And would you guys think I'm absolutely crazy for wanting to start The Four Winds? I'm wanting to start it because it's a little bit gloomy here, and I feel like this is one of the literary books that I brought that aren't super atmospheric to where I'm at. I think I'm going to continue The Paradise Problem right now. Let's get going with the 3rd book for today's video. We've already found 1 5-star read. Let's see if we can find any more. Are you bored? I said, no, I'm never bored. But I'm really not. I am very content with mundane activities. I don't know why I am constantly eating up the guy, getting jealous, but not in a overbearing, like, ew type of way, but like jealous inwardly, because there's just like a moment and this other guy's there. He's tall, but I'm taller, and God, I know it's childish, but I straighten my spine, emphasizing it. And then he goes on to say, I know he means it playfully, but the innuendo lingers like a sneering echo. I imagine landing an uppercut that sends him through the ceiling. This book has been such a delight for me, honestly. I love the easygoing banter between the two characters. I love the main girl, like the way that she goes about this whole entire family situation, because basically you're following Liam. Oh, I forgot her name. What is her name? Anna. So you're following Liam and Anna. And Liam and Anna were roommates in college, but they literally did not even speak to each other, and they were married to each other, but just for like Liam's inheritance type of thing. Like his family owns, like, imagine Walmart. Their last name is Weston, W-E-S-T-O-N, not Weston, like the hotel company. Or they own, like, it would be Walmart. Like if your family owned Walmart. Family has a lot of money. They're on this private island, have to fake be married, all of this stuff so we can get his inheritance. But obviously feelings start brewing. She's talking about how awful his family is, and at one point the mom says something, and she says something along the lines of like, if there was a camera I would be looking into it right now. And all I imagined was the character in looking into the camera, like on The Office. Like just little things in the description like that make this book just such a delight to read. Like the atmosphere, it is so atmospheric, which The Unhoneymooners is another atmospheric read by them. I like the chemistry between the two of them too. Like I feel like there's a lot of chemistry between these two characters. I've just been having a really good time reading it, but I decided, I'm upstairs, and I decided to turn on Just Go With It to have as my little background to read the book, and I'm having a great time. Update time, everybody. The time has come where I have finished another book for this video. I just finished The Paradise Problem this morning. I like to sit on the books a little bit before I review them for you guys. I probably finished this like 2 hours ago. And let me tell you guys, I was very pleasantly surprised, kind of off topic, but when this book first came out, I didn't even know that it was coming out. I think I was in Seaside in May, which is around the same area that we're in now. I went into a bookshop and I had seen that this was a new release. Like I did not even know that Christina Lauren was coming out with a new book. And then also, the reason I'm saying this is because this cover is very, very similar to The Unhoneymooners, which is another book by Christina Lauren that kind of gives this vibe of like tropical destination getaway fake marriage, like literally the same exact thing, that you have to be fake married for this certain thing. It off the bat reminded me of The Unhoneymooners, and if you guys have been following along with my reading journey, The Unhoneymooners was one of the first books that I read when I was getting back into reading heavily, and it was one of the like OG book talk book, enemy to lovers, you know, that whole entire thing. And so it was a 5-star read for me, and then I think it was around last year I picked it back up to just see like if it was still a 5-star for me. I did this video where I tested if my 5 stars were still 5 stars, and that one literally I think bumped down to like a 1.5, 2, somewhere around there. With that being said, I was very kind of weary to go into this one because I just really did not vibe with The Unhoneymooners after rereading it in my book taste that I have now. But I picked this one up and it literally feels like a way better version of The Unhoneymooners. Like it feels like they kind of took that same loose premise of like the fake marriage in paradise type of thing. They completely rewrote it, rewrote the characters, rewrote the dynamics, and made it so much better. I think I'm giving this book a 4.25, and I know that I always feel so annoying when I do the 2.5 or 2.75, but I feel like it just really gets in there with how I view it, because I kept thinking, oh yeah, it's like a 4, it's not a 4.5. But then I was like, no, I feel like a 4.25 really settles my opinion on this one. It is so much fun. It is so atmospheric and so entertaining. The drama is literally watching like The Desperate Housewives or something along those lines. You literally feel like you are watching this family that is so rich, and you're just sitting there on the sidelines like in, you know, jaw on the floor as to what these people are doing and how they're behaving. And the dynamics in every single character are so interesting because there's so much to it. I feel like sometimes in these kind of like rom-coms that you pick up, the problems can be extremely surface level and they're just kind of there to be that, like an issue. It's not really deep in any way, and even the characters that are supposed to be an issue are not really fleshed out. But I can say in this book, they felt pretty fleshed out to me, where it felt like they made the problem like an actual problem that you kept thinking of in the book, and it wasn't an annoyance just to have a conflict. It made a lot of sense, kind of in the same way that I talked about Wild Eyes, that I enjoy conflict when it makes sense. It's when authors write in a conflict that absolutely makes no sense at all. It just made sense with like the characters and how you understand them and the family dynamics and what is at stake here. I really enjoyed it. Like, I was having such a good time. First of all, the banter in this book I absolutely love. I adored our main character, which is actually so funny because when I picked this up a few months ago in May and read like the first 30 pages, I didn't know if I was loving our main character, and quickly she won me over. I absolutely love the way that she speaks to this family, her inner monologue, and even what she says to others, and just how she kind of swoops in and shows our main guy for the first time some stability and that somebody's in his corner. I love that representation within a relationship of a strong foundation. And I will say that I also love, because at some points I was like, this kind of feels insta-lovey, but I feel like the book and the authors did their own thing to rectify that towards the end. I had a really, really good time with that. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. So this one gets a 4.25. Absolutely had such a great time with it. So far we have read 3 books, and all of them have been a 4 and above. We have a 4.25, 4.5, and a 5-star. We're doing really good. I was able to grab a copy of this on Libby, which this is just last night. So I have this to be able to bring down on my Kindle. I feel like this one I kind of have been thinking about picking up, because I feel like this one's literary with romance to it. So if I'm feeling kind of in the middle of that literary and romance, it's giving me both at the same time. So I think I may grab my Kindle and start this one. Mandatory anytime I see Charlie. Mandatory. Even though it has been gloomy this whole entire time we've been here, I have somehow managed to get a little bit of sunburn on my face. Anyway, I wanted to give you guys a little reading update. So, a little bit of a reading update for all of you. I am reading just last night. Currently about 100 pages into this bad boy right now. I will tell you, this packs an emotional punch, and when I mean an emotional punch, it is literally a gut punch. Not even a gut punch. It is going to give me a mean left or right hook, whichever hand is more dominant. The lines in this book, specifically about themes surrounding grief, are so poignant in the way that they hit you, because it's something that is A, everybody's worst fear, or B, something that people have experienced. And so it hits you kind of no matter what. I've been dog-earing some of the pages. I don't know if you guys can or want to see that, but I don't really tab my books anymore, so I just dog-ear pages so we can go through them. Other than the emotional punch that it packs, the relationship between the core center of the friend group in this book is magnificent. The chemistry between the friends is something that feels very real. Where like, I feel like sometimes in books, friendships are written in a very like surface level way, where, you know, the friend kind of just serves as a like voice of reason for certain scenarios and situations that may arise. So they're not really written to be something very deep in the book. However, the idea and the topic of friendship is very, very important in this book. So they were very fleshed out characters and very fleshed out to the main character itself and like everything that kind of revolves around it. I feel like friendship is the nucleus of the story in a lot of ways, even within relationships. That being said, there are just so many quotes, even aside from how emotional the book is, that they just are able to capture very perfectly and put things into words that I've never even been able to put into words. For example, like even just more things that you could quote unquote see as mundane. says, seeing someone you know well in a totally different context is always disorienting and vaguely impressive. You realize you have them on a loan from the other lives they live. Separation makes you value something more, and I was acutely aware of how fond I was of Ed and how badly I'd miss him, and had thrown a big light on in a room inside me. Little simple things like that hit me within the book, of things that I can't put into words, because then you really start thinking on it of, yes, the moments that you see friends that maybe within the context of like you've only seen them in school, and then all of a sudden you see them outside of that context and they're like a whole entire different person, and they have a bunch of different people and different things that they mean to those type of people. Just even little things like that. There are so many different lines, like this quote, for example. Not even that, it might only be a Domino's pizza, but the act of choosing toppings feels so frivolous. It's like a statement that life goes on. You're not ready for that statement. You can't find the moment or the words without it seeming tasteless. How can they be dead and you're still preferring pepperoni and a ham? I just want to keep reading you guys lines in this book, because it's actually taking my breath away at moments where I'm like, there is no way that somebody is able to articulate these emotions so clearly via words on paper. This, for example, is kind of in a moment of very like grief-stricken denial, and I just found this so interesting because you kind of get this setup of this denial. This something happens and there's this huge portion of denial that is just heartbreaking and aching to listen to. Say listen to, I mean read, but still to read on paper, because you see it also the way that this author is able to write. You can see it play out in your mind so well, at least for me. There's this kind of like denial going on, like I said, and I found it brilliant the way that we're reading about this denial and panic, and then we go into, I put my hand on a wall to study myself and wonder why I've never noticed so much about walls before. The heat from the morning sun still in the brick, the rough porous texture of it against my palm, the way the grainy mortar squeezes out like buttercream and cake. And just like that, like the example of like getting devastating news, and then your brain, like you put your hand on the wall, and instead of focusing on this horrendous thing that has happened, your brain goes and starts focusing on details of other things. Like instead of just saying, like, my brain starts to focus on what the wall feels like. She shows us it. She's not telling us, she is showing it. I love it. It's packing an emotional punch. Also, the romance setup in this story has so many different layers to it. It's just very enrapturing. The details of the book, so much is at stake because of, again, how I said friendship is the nucleus of everything. There's just so many different moving puzzle pieces going around, and it makes you just very like you want to flip through the pages as fast as you can, taking in all of the content that you can take in. Very happy that I picked this one up. I do feel like it's kind of giving me a little bit of that what I was chasing, where I was still in a romance mood but wanted maybe a little bit more literary, because this is definitely giving like both of those. I can see where this is probably going to go romance heavy later on into the book, but still the writing in different plots in the book and different things and themes going on gives you that literary feeling and literary plot within it as well. So far, loving it, loving the writing, loving the story and everything that is going on in it. Let's talk about just last night. Okay. That is actually hilarious. As I stated this morning, last night I went to bed and I had like 20% left of the book, but when sleep calls, I'm always answering. I woke up this morning at like 7 a.m. and the first thing that I did was retch over, grabbed the book and just sat up and finished reading it. I wake up this morning and I finished the book. And I will say, I think after further deliberation, I have settled on a 4-star rating with the book. Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys. At first, when I started talking to you guys about this book yesterday, I was thinking that I was gonna give it a 5 because the book starts off very, very strong. There's such underlinable quotes. The writing is good, the friendship aspect, like all of it was perfect. Even when you get into the tragedy plot of the story that sticks with you throughout the whole entire rest of the book. However, I just felt like then the pacing and everything, after right about where I stopped talking to you guys yesterday, slowed down a bit. And I think I was like around, I think I was in that 100-page mark when I was talking to you guys. I was very perplexed because also I went into this pretty blindly, which is how I go into most books. I know loosely what the book is about, which can be a blessing or occurs. From that point on, our plot kind of shifted in a way that I guess I did not see coming, which I enjoyed because I actually was going to do a Goodreads update. By the time that I remembered to do a Goodreads update, I was done with the book. So very interesting timing, destiny. It took a turn that I did not expect the story to take, and I actually really liked that. I will say that I think it's clever too. Like on the cover it says 2 best friends, 1 road trip, just last night, something like that, 1 night or something. And I think that after you read the book and you kind of look into that, I feel like that's also very clever, because I feel like the book purposefully makes you think one way and then it actually is the other, which I really enjoy when it comes to books. Also, I do want to say that you find this book in the romance section of your bookstores, but for me, I feel like this book was not a romance literally at all. But what I really liked was we also just focus a lot on friendship and maybe even like unknowing things from like childhood, or that you do unknowingly to like your friends, things you take for granted. Also, the grief aspect of this book I felt was very touching. There were a lot of lines in this book that were so deeply emotional and almost tear-jerking in a way, and not because they were overtly sad, but because of the heartbreaking nature of them and their simplicity. Even the most mundane things are not the things that you think about when you think about something as big as grief. And then you're kind of faced with this every single day, even like simple acts of like reaching for the phone, not being able to talk to somebody, like all of those things that are hard to grapple with in your day-to-day life. I loved the ending of the book. I felt like it tied in so much stuff together. Like I had a huge smile on my face because I feel like it was beautifully done. However, like I have been saying, I think it was well done. I think it, you know, checked all boxes, and I was very, what is the word I'm looking for? I was happy with how the story ended. I thought that it was very full circle. However, like I was saying, this book is in romance sections, it's in the romance aisle, it's marketed as a romance, right? I feel like the romance in this book was very much lacking. As soon as I got so attached to the romance, we cut it off completely. And it doesn't even give you any of the romance. I feel like that is what dropped it down a star. Like I still loved the book, I loved the writing, I loved so much of the messaging and everything of the book. When it came to the romance, I feel like we barely got any in the sense where it's like, it didn't even make sense to have a romantic element, because like I said, it felt like I literally got there, I underlined this scene, dog-eared it in the book of like this kind of like self-realization that you were in love with somebody, but then we don't see that talked about. And then we just jump to the end of the book. Like we didn't even really see them, I feel, fall in love. All right, I guess. So then that dropped it down from, I feel like at the beginning of the book, I was like, I could see this being a 5-star. And then even the 4.5 that I felt in the middle, it just dropped all the way down after that, because ultimately when a book is marketed as a romance and then you lack the romance element to the book, it's catching me off guard. So with that being said, we have yet another 4-star book on our hands. I gave just last night a 4-star. I still really enjoyed the book and I would recommend it to everybody. I feel like it's something that everybody should read. I feel like it's very well written and it makes me very interested for the author's other works. So then I took a little break and I picked back up The Perfect Couple, mainly because I do feel like I'm in the element to read it, and also majorly because I know that if I leave this vacation without that book read, I will not read it for like another year. I'm not somebody who really picks up kind of summer themed and set books in other seasons. We're reading it. I am now, I think I literally remembered that I'm on page 133 of the book. I will say, I have said many times that I enjoy Ellen Hildebrand's books. That rings true. I will say that I've never like left an Ellen Hildebrand book being like, ooh, this is so like well written. I usually say they're great escapism, and obviously she has to have some like semblance of, let me make sure that's the right word. I don't know if that's really the right word, but we're gonna go with it, of good writing where it keeps me coming back. Because if I didn't think that the author had a talent for something, like how I say that she has a talent for making it feel like an escapism read, or you really feel like you're one of the like Nantucket people when reading the book. So obviously she has talent, but this is the first book that I picked up by her where I literally feel like it's just really good writing. I think specifically we're in the mother of the bride's point of view, Karen. You guys know I was kind of talking about the Karen character and how I just thought that it was funny. She is kind of talking about this struggle that she has, that you learn that she has as a main character, and she's talking about her marriage and her children, and I was just like, wow, this is so well written. Like, that is the first time that I've ever felt like that in an Ellen Hildebrand book, and that's not to say that I'm like, oh, she doesn't have good writing and it's just purely escapism, but this one just really stands out to me. Also, with another character that I feel like is definitely a complex character, which is one of the other main people in the book, which is the like groom's mother, which the wedding is taking place at her house. Like, she's a big part of the book. I feel like she's also a complex character because in some ways you're just like, oh, you know, like the ickiness that you feel from her character, but then you kind of start delving into kind of things that she deals with and what she's got going on behind the scenes within like her marriage and like other things that are happening. And also on top of all of this happening, like there is a mystery element to the book. Like, somebody turns up murdered on the morning that the wedding is supposed to take place. And so you're dealing with that mysterious element while learning about these characters. And I feel like you just have to have a talent for writing to be able to be building up these characters in this mystery, but also be making these characters that's very interesting. I will say, I mean, it just rings true that these are great escapism reads. Like, as soon as I'm in it, and I literally can like picture it so well in my head. And Ellen Hildebrand just has a talent of making characters that you can both sympathize with and hate, which I really enjoy, because most of the time if I get a feeling of hatred for a character, it's done. It's just different with her books, because while you know you were supposed to hate the character, because even when I know I'm supposed to hate the character, I'm still like, this is just so annoying to deal with. She is able to make it in a place where it's not overly annoying to where you hate them. You still are intrigued as to what they have to say and what they have going on. I don't know. I just feel like Ellen Hildebrand has a talent for writing that I never really saw until this book, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So I'm going to continue reading that today. We still have a lot of promising books on the TBR for the rest of the days that we're here, but that's what's going on with my reading right now. I'm gonna go back to reading The Perfect Couple later when I have some free time. Hello, I'm all ready. We're supposed to be taking family pictures, but I'm waiting for everybody else to be ready. I wanted to talk to you guys about Book Lovers. This is a reread for me. This is not a 5-star reread for me. I think I rated this like a 4. Let's look at the Goodreads. I am right. Okay. No, I am right. Love when that happens. I finished this book on May 25th, 2022, and I had given it a 4 stars. Let's mark this as currently reading. This is the only book out of what I call the like original Emily Henry trio of like book lovers, people being on vacation, beach read. This is the only one I hadn't reread. I really wanted to revisit this one because I remember when this came out, I was like obsessed with it, and I was obsessed with Charlie Lastra. Like, I could not get him out of my head. I wouldn't shut up about him. I have to say that upon this reread, I can see why. Literally, the things I have dog-eared are literally just banter and tension. I want to lead with that I feel like this book, like revisiting it, I feel like this book packs the most tension, banter, and emotional depth in her books with just the character. Like, Nora herself as a character is actually somebody that as I have gotten older, I can wildly relate to. I feel like there are some Emily Henry books that I relate with, some I don't. For example, the Emily Henry books that I would say that I actually like deeply resonate with would be Happy Place, a little bit of Beach Read, but like Happy Place is the one that I've said that I like relate to the most. But upon picking this one up, a lot of Nora kind of resonates with me. I feel like our attitudes are the same and kind of some of the things that she talks about within herself of how other people perceive her is something that I very much identify with. And so seeing this in a book as I've gotten older and kind of come more to terms and had a little bit more self-realization, picking this book back up, I'm like, wow, this really hits different, like reading her inner monologue. Also just the way that she like deeply cares about other people is also very reminiscent of my thought process towards people that I care about. Also on the topic of the romance in this book, literally, like I said, packed with tension, packed with angst, and packed with banter, like some of the best that I've seen from her upon the reread. I literally have so many dog-eared pages. I'm actually on chapter 12 right now, about 140 pages in. I would say probably like 30% into the book, and I have just been having a great time rereading it. Also, just something about Emily Henry's banter. I'm pretty sure in one of these bookmarked pages, yes, right here, I literally say banter like this can only be written, because I really enjoy her banter. I feel like you literally hear all the time like Emily Henry has the best banter, which I do believe is true. I don't think I've read another author that can do banter quite like her, but something about it is it's like you don't even care that this is like not really how people talk. It's like banter like this and conversations like this, I believe, purely only exist on paper. Her banter is just so good that you believe it can only be purely fictional. Like nobody can quite literally be this intelligent and smart and sassy at all points in life. But even with me saying that, I really enjoy that. It's in a way that feels like non-realistic, but in a way that doesn't feel non-realistic. You know, I don't know if that made any sense at all. I have just been so purely enjoying this book and the romance and the angst between the two characters. I know I keep saying it, but literally, like, I have markings all over this book from some of the things that have been happening. I literally can't, like, I highlighted and then bracketed this whole entire paragraph, and it just says one word, tension, and it's like when they're playing pool scene, like the first time that they are in the bar together. Lines like this one that I really resonate with, again, in the part of Nora that she deeply cares about other people. It says, again, I feel that heart pinch sensation, like I'm missing her, like all of our best moments are behind us, that I remind myself is why I'm doing this. And I really relate to that too. Like, you know, when you are with somebody and you kind of almost have this like anxiety and fear that, like, I don't know, your best moments are past, and like, what if this person doesn't like want to hang out with me anymore? Like little things like this. Even though she's talking about her sister in this instance, I still feel it nevertheless. And then of course the iconic introduction to this book. When books are your life, or in my case your job, you get pretty good at guessing where a story is going. Iconic, especially because this book is literally called Book Lovers. I feel like it was supposed to appeal to the book lovers and then to intro your book that way. I feel like Emily Henry is very practical and purposeful with like every little thing she does in her books. Like even when things are written by book lovers, like I feel like this book was to kind of speak to and relate to people who love books. I remember one of the critiques, like when this book first came out, is people thought it would be a lot more quote unquote bookish than it was, but upon the reread, it's all in there. Like it's talking about tropes, it's talking about kind of the practical and stuff that you see all the time in books / movies. It's talking about bookstores and kind of like little things that we do, like getting an iced coffee in the morning, then going to work at the bookshop and like just having your little romance books. Like it talks about the stuff that book lovers can heavily relate to, but it's just so interwoven in there perfectly that it may not be in your face unless you really realize it. Also, I literally bookmarked the line on page 5 that says, it's just that when hilariously bad things happen, I leave my body. I watch them happen from outside myself and think, really, this is what the universe has chosen to do? A bit on the nose, isn't it? And I put real, because that's also something that I do. Even like this, like sometimes when I read aloud stuff that I've highlighted and underlined in my books, and it's like, I just don't feel like it's gonna hit as hard and like people don't understand. But this was like a underline for banter purposes. It says, no, he says, got distracted by 2 gin martinis and a platinum blonde shark who wanted me dead. Not dead, I say, lightly mauled maybe, but I would have stayed away from your face. Didn't realize you were a fan, he writes. Like little stuff like that. I'm just like, it literally is giving like probably the least amount possible, but I swoon over it nevertheless. Cannot wait for this to get its film adaptation, because I feel like I can see so clearly this playing out on the screen. Even just upon the reread, it plays like a movie in my head. I am very excited for it, and obviously goes to be said, I'm absolutely loving it and adoring it as always. But like I said, it counts because this is a reread, and it would have counted nevertheless because this is my video. But I just love the book so much, even more upon the reread. Like I said, sometimes when you read a book and reread it when you're older, you can either love it the same, love it less, or love it more. For example, this book was a 4 stars when I first read it, but being older, kind of having some different life circumstances than I was when I was, I think, 19 at the time of reading this, and I'm 21. Like, it's not a whole lot of years in between, but there is stuff that I've learned about myself and grown older. and you relate to more, or like even things that maybe you don't relate to anymore. You could have related to nostalgia, you know, all of these different things that come into it. But I could see this being a 5-star read. And even though it's a reread, it would be a new 5-star because I don't think that I looked at this book before as a 5-star. I just remember really enjoying it. We'll see. We shall see. Okay, I don't know if this is going to be backlit or not. Update coming at you guys. I just finished Book Lovers by Emily Henry a little bit ago, and by a little bit ago I mean probably 30 minutes ago, but I have thoughts already ready for you guys. Would you believe it? I don't feel like this is a surprise. I actually decided to give this book a 5 stars. This book may be one of the books that I relate to the heaviest in an Emily Henry book, which is absolutely insane because Happy Place was one of those books that I said was like literally me inside of a book. But now it makes me want to reread Happy Place because I feel like being older, as I was already talking about in the earlier clip, but getting older and having some of the self-realization that I have come to terms with in the past few years, and then rereading this book and reading Nora's like inner dialogue and inner, you know, thoughts and the way that she is with people, I felt very seen, especially towards the end when our character starts having some self-realization. This one really messed me up. It says, somehow it never occurred to me that this was an option, that two people in the same hug could both be allowed to fall apart, that maybe it's neither of our jobs to keep a steel spine. I also just have to read you guys this entire monologue, if you will. I used to think it was because people like me don't get those endings, and asking for it, hoping for it, is a way to lose something you've never had. The ones that speak to me are the ones whose final pages admit that there's no going back, that every good thing must end, that every bad thing does too, that everything does. That is what I'm looking for every time I flip to the back of a book, compulsively checking for proof that in a life where so many things have gone wrong, there can be beauty too, that there is always hope no matter what. The ones that said, yes, you have lost something, but maybe someday you'll find something too. For a decade, I've known I will never again have everything, and so all I've wanted is to believe that someday again I'll have enough. That ache won't always be so bad. Some books you don't read so much as live, and finishing one of those always makes me think of ascending from a scuba dive. Like if I surface too fast, I might get the bend. This book just makes me feel so intimately known in a way that makes me very uncomfortable. Emily Henry has this way of making me feel like she has lived inside of my bones and written a book about it. It feels like she has read my own personal diary entries and is like, this is great material for me to make a main character about. Thank you so much. Sometimes it's very humbling to read your innermost insecurities on page, you know, like, and you feel seen in that way. It feels a little humbling for sure. Emily Henry as an author to me is the same way that Taylor Swift is an artist. I feel like they jump inside of my innermost thoughts and they live there, and then they write experiences based off of what I am thinking in my brain, and they put it out for people to enjoy. And I guess that that's just not something that I thought of the first time that I read Book Lovers. I will say that like so many of the deep, hard-hitting things are in this book, because let it be known, there are a lot of deep, hard-hitting things in this book. I feel like I like glossed over that the first time that I ever read this book, and I don't know if it was because of the type of reader I was back then, because then again, you have to think I was a little bit fresh out of high school. But even like in high school, I was reading like deeper books. I'm pretty sure I literally read like Murakami in high school. Like, not that that's saying that I was a profound thinker or anything, but I was reading like more literary pieces, especially because of the classes that I had. So it's not like I was like not thinking about the books or like not paying attention to that stuff, but also I do feel like I was in a time of life where I just kind of was looking for more of like the romance, not maybe paying attention so much to the other plot. Like I could recognize it was there, but I wasn't like deep into it like I am now. To speak about the plot of this book, it is so much going on at once, because this book is like, I remember when it first came out, everybody was like, this is the book for sisters, and I do definitely, I can see obviously why people would say that. Being a sister is a huge part of the book, but also I think it's like for siblings, period, that even some of the stuff that are male main character does being a sibling for like his sister and stuff, which is just like little parts, and what you do for family I feel like is a big thing as well. Like no matter if you're a brother or a sister or a daughter or a son, like I feel like you can relate to heavily in this book, and a lot of the older and younger sibling dynamic that I feel like can apply to anybody, so that also hits. Like I said, just the character of Nora being this very like strong independent woman, very career driven, knows what she wants, kind of has only had herself to depend on, slash wants to be this strong force for everybody else around her to depend on, and what that looks like inside and also within your career, of caring so much about your career, what that looks like to people around you or even to the people that you work with. So many things that I am just like, you know, like I feel like something jumped inside of my body, wore my skin for a few months, and then wrote a book about it. I don't know if you guys can see, I don't know if it's actually gonna focus on it. I dog-eared so many pages. That's my new form of annotating. This, hands down, like hands down, Emily Henry's best tension and banter between a couple. And also, I love Gus and January. I love them. Also, Beach Read is mentioned in this book like 2 or 3 times, I'm pretty sure. By that I mean we mentioned January a few times, which I always love so much, especially when Beach Read is ever mentioned. They're the 2 characters that remind me the most of January and Gus, and it's not to compare the 2, but it's just because we all know, if you watch my videos, how much I like rave about Gus and January and how much I love them together as a couple. They are the closest in Emily Henry's little universe that I have seen a couple get to that, to where it's like you intimately know each other, and the whole entire thing about them is that they're kind of like the same person, not 100%, but kind of in the way that they deeply understand each other because that they're in the same profession. And I feel like that's just a theme because also obviously if you read Beach Read, they both are writers, and then this one they both are like in the publishing industry, where like he's an editor and she is a like what do you call it, an agent? I don't know, but they both edit this book together, and I feel like I just love that trope as well, like where they both just intimately know each other because they're both going through the same exact thing. I love it. I don't know, it's just, it hit so much harder on the second read, and there has always just been a little buzz in my brain since I've gotten older. I've always wanted to revisit it because I'm like, I just feel like I would really love it in the back of my mind, like Charlie Lastra, the man that you are. Like some of the callbacks that we do, like I underlined this little interaction that we have because also callbacks to like earlier in the book, like little inside jokes that they make that mean something later on down the road. I love that. I love it. Oh my gosh, even just flipping back through this, like interaction right here. He whispers to her and says, "You're not that tall." I whisper back, "I'm as tall as you." "I'm not that tall," he says. "Yes, but for men," I say, "there's no such thing as too tall." He holds my gaze far too seriously for this very unserious conversation. My skin buzzes like my blood is made of iron fillings and his eyes are magnets sweeping over them. "There isn't for women either. There's just tall women," he says, "and the men too insecure to date them." Like this isn't even his like strongest like line in this book. Then this interaction, like even just the way Emily Henry has a talent for writing, and I literally do not care if somebody's going, like Emily Henry books are way more enjoyable when there's not somebody in your ear telling me how overrated she is. Like her writing is genuinely something to like, isn't this saying write home about? But it is. This is like me writing home. I'm telling you guys, I love her writing. The way that she will have a line of dialogue and then explain it in this way, or even just like make these comparisons within her writing. It is just so good. I will never not enjoy it. Just this quote too, like little lines that we'll have like this. "That's the thing about being an adult standing beside your childhood race car bed. Time collapses, and instead of the version you've built from scratch, you're all the drafts that came before all at once." And then also sharing another quote, "Sometimes even when you start with the last page and you think you know everything, a book finds a way to surprise you." I think that it is a masterpiece, and this actually, as of right now, is one of my favorite Emily Henry books. I would say my top 3, which maybe this has always been my top 3, but it just really put it into stone, is Beach Read, Happy Place, and Book Lovers. I don't know the tier ranking of that. That's just my top 3, but I love this book so much, and it literally went from a 4-star to a 5-star. New 5-star read. It is a reread, but it was not a 5-star before. It is a 5-star now. So we're up to 2 5 stars for this video. So let's see if we can find any other 5 stars. ignore that I'm in the same exact top as the last clip, but I am now reading The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. I think that this is this author's second book, or else I've only read one other book by the author, but I'm pretty sure You With a View was her debut. I'm about 46 pages in, and I had high hopes because I really enjoyed You With a View. That was like a solid 4-star book for me. And with this one, I heard that it was like second chance, takes place at a I just lost my page again. Takes place at a wedding. And as soon as I started this book, I was like, wow, there is some deep history here. Like, I'm thinking, you know, like maybe they dated back in the day, something happened. No, they are literally like childhood. Like, they have been friends since they were like 15. They met when they were 15. There's some deep-rooted history here. Obviously, I don't know all of it within these 46 pages, but I am picking up on some stuff. Book is getting points. Her comfort show is New Girl. One of my comfort shows is New Girl. What else? What was the other thing? Oh, the book talked about a Bernedoodle. If you guys don't know, my dog, my life, Charlie, she's a Bernedoodle. Sign me up. Also, I will say that I didn't notice this like in You With a View. I don't know if this is just something that this author has expanded upon and kind of gotten better at, which is the writing. Like, I've underlined a few things in this book that I'm just like, the way that she is able to write interactions between the two characters and kind of these like flashback scenes is so good. Like, I just find her writing very enjoyable, and that's something that I don't remember noting. It says, in it, I hear every way he's ever said my name, through affectionately, through tears, not the way he has in our post-breakup world, like air, something I can walk through without resistance. So good, and I'm having such a good time, and I have some good feelings about this book. This was one of the books that I looked at in the stack that I brought, and I was like, I have a good feeling about this one. Ever since breaking my tripod at the very beginning of this vacation, this has become my go-to spot for my sit-down clips. I have my little review buddy over here. As you guys may be assuming, I have finished The X-Files, and this is unfortunately going to be the last book of this video and where this video ends. I really loved and enjoyed this book. I ended up settling on a 4 stars with this book. I was kind of between the 4 to a 4.5 star range. I took a literal nice long walk on the beach and came to terms with the fact that it's a 4 star. I feel like the high of some of the stuff that happens at the ending of the book really made me like my heart squeeze, and I was like, oh. And it made me want to rate it a 4.5, but then I was thinking of my 4.5 books and even some of the 4.5s that I have in this stack alone of books that I've read, and I was like, it just doesn't hit like a 4.5 for me, but it is a strong 4. I don't read second chance romances a lot, and I feel like majority of the time after finishing a second chance romance, I really enjoy them, so I'm always kind of confused as to why I don't feel like I personally seek them out a lot. With this one, it just reminded me how much I actually do really enjoy the second chance romance when it is done right, because most of the time I feel like the reasoning of me not really loving second chance romances, and probably why I stay away from them subconsciously, is because the reasoning behind the couple not working the first time goes majority of the time the 2 negative ways, where I'm like, yeah, you guys should have never even tried to reconcile and get back together. Like, it's something that is definitely not something you can come back from, but you guys are somehow coming back from it in a way that I don't feel like we should. Or it's the other side, and it's like the communication is lacking so severely, and we broke up over something literally so stupid that I don't have belief in the longevity of this relationship. There's very little second chance romances that I go, you know what, this makes sense, feels like the natural course of a relationship that it can take, and thankfully I felt that way with this one. Off the bat, you kind of get their backstory, but all of their backstory is told via these like flashbacks. It doesn't do the then and now perspective, which I actually really enjoy. I really like that because I feel like it didn't go too much into the past. Like this author was able to kind of build up the past in a way that didn't feel like we were going too much into it. Like I said, I just feel like sometimes it's unnecessary. Like I don't really care enough. I feel like it was just enough for me to understand how deep rooted their relationship was. And it was also the way that the author was able to write it in very simple sentences, but that hit very deep, that if you've known somebody for a long time and or been in a relationship for a long time, that you understand even within those simple sentences of how the relationship means a lot. Our main two people, Eli and Georgia, they have known each other for literally years, since they were 15 years old. They started dating when they were older, like in college, but they have known each other for a very long time and been inside of each other's lives for such a long time. That sentence started off really good. So obviously they have to kind of join forces to help save their best friend's wedding. And I have to say, this is another case where I feel like I've said this with quite a few, maybe being 3 out of the 6 books that I read in today's video, that I found characters that I can relate to. And I think I've said it inside of this video. I've said it so many times. I feel like, why do I keep saying it? But I do nevertheless, that I personally do not need to relate to a character to enjoy a book, but it just always is really nice when you feel seen via the book that you're reading. And in this one, I actually could relate to both the male main character and the female main character. With our main character, Georgia, I really related to the kind of anxiety and fear of missing out that she has around her friends, of like feeling kind of replaceable, and if she's not doing enough at all times and not being there for everybody and kind of like squishing herself down, that nobody will make room for her and stuff. Like the things and fears that she has around relationships that she's had for literally years. Some of the quotes we would get into around that plot really hit me right here. Until this author put it in words on paper, I didn't know how to describe the way that I feel about these things. And that's why sometimes it feels so delightful and painful to relate so deeply to something, because sometimes you have these like big feelings that you feel like nobody else feels, and that can feel very isolating and lonely. But then the author is able to put it into words that you may have never been able to find without reading this book. And that's what I felt in this book with that. But also I could relate to our main character, Eli, because of the way that he kind of like dives into work and the anxiety that he has, because there is anxiety representation within our male main character. And I related a lot to that, especially around how that manifests itself into his job and kind of the things that he feels like he has to do. The romance in this book, I really enjoyed. I feel like I said I bought into the history between these two characters. Like I feel like I felt it within even just the descriptions without having the dialogue between them, which there was also very good dialogue and you could feel it within the words that they were saying to each other, but also the little things that the author would write. For example, like if the two were in the same room together, they would write the little descriptions of the sense of the feeling of knowing that the other person is watching you, or the little brushes and touches or like tugs of the hair, like little things like that. Like when you were so aware of somebody's presence within the room, when they have that special like place in your heart, like you just know where they are at all times. Like little instances like that just made it so believable of this history and connection between the two characters. Something kind of talking about earlier, how second chance romances can kind of throw me off loop because of the whole entire like either the reason for them breaking up is just like stupid, or it's like you shouldn't get back together. And this one I feel like was realistic, especially with two people knowing each other, growing through different things, kind of taking leaps together, and where I feel like realistic miscommunication that is not overly annoying, where you're just like screaming like, why don't you just have a conversation? Now I'm gushing and gushing and gushing about this book, so you may be like, Destiny, why isn't this book a 5 stars? I will say it had me in the beginning for maybe the first like 100 pages, and then it lost me until like around the last 100-ish pages. And I mean, granted, this book isn't very long, but to lose me throughout the entire middle of the book, like I just feel like everything kind of fell a little flat in between for me. And also, literally, this is nothing against the book at all, and not even a reason why I lowered the rating to a 4 stars. It was literally just because it completely lost me so much in the middle. like to the point where I was having to like convince myself to pick it up and try to motivate myself to pick it up. Like when I would pick it up, I was enjoying it, but it just wasn't one of those books where I was like, ooh, I just want to pick this up, like when I have to put it down. So yeah, this, what I'm about to say is not anything that I'm holding against the book. In this book, the two main characters are trying to help save their best friend. They have a mutual best friend. They're trying to help save his wedding. So it's going like literally catastrophically wrong, like almost just comedically wrong. Like everything that can go wrong is going wrong. So they're trying to like jump in and save everything, save the day. And that gave me so much anxiety. Like actually sometimes I would have to just like skim over the parts where things were going wrong, because I actually like was feeling tension in my chest in a way that I don't feel like was purposeful. I feel like it was just supposed to be like light fun and like some comedic relief to help the plot move along. But it was actually hitting me so hard because the thought and stress of that like actually happening was sending me into a spiral. The ending of this book, the paper rings and post-it notes are the equivalent to the emails and Buy a Thread to me. It just gives the same exact vibe. Like I've already said it in this video and I feel like I've been saying it, but the quote, "To be loved is to be known," and how I talked about how I love when that is depicted within a book of like any character kind of paying attention and knowing somebody. It's literally like the best thing to me. I love it so much. Well, like I said, I am officially done with this video. I kind of had the idea of doing it throughout the span of this vacation, doing a little mood reading, seeing if and how many 5 stars we can find. So let's see how many 5 stars I found in today's video. So I read 6 books in today's video. Let's go through them rapid fire. First of all, I finished We Used to Live Here. This is a horror book that I rated a 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed this one. Super eerie. If you want that kind of creepy haunted house vibe that is giving kind of paranormal, like the hair on the back of your neck standing up, I would recommend this one. Next up, I think I finished Wild Eyes, which is where I found my first 5 star of the video. This was very surprising for me because Wild Love, which is the first book in the Rose Hill series, was a 5 star, and I didn't really expect another book in the series to be a 5 star. Obviously you always hope for that, but I didn't really go in expecting, and this one was a pleasant surprise. Absolutely loved it. And then I picked up The Paradise Problem, which I surprisingly rated a 4.5 stars. I really loved this one. The dynamic of our two characters, the tension between them, and I really enjoyed our main character like a lot. Anna was the comedic relief and level-headedness that we needed in the storm of chaos and drama that was happening in this book. Then I picked up Just Last Night. I think, what did I end up rating this one? I can't remember if I gave it a 4 or a 4.5. After deliberation and what I wrote in my Notion, I ended up giving this one a 4 stars just because it really lost me at the romance plot, but everything else about this book I really enjoyed. Then I did my reread of Book Lovers, but it went from a 4 to a 5 star, which was the second 5 star that I found in today's video. Like I said, the relatability in this book, the tension, the characters, the angst, everything about it was just so good and hit so hard right in the heartstring. And lastly, The X-Files, which I rated a 4 stars, and we just hashed out all of those thoughts, so I don't need to get back into them. 6 books in today's video, and I will say that kind of the majority of them, or at least half of them, I went in with like not zero expectations, but I didn't expect for them to be rated highly. These were definitely like off of my TBR this month, some of my most anticipated mood reads of the month, so I wanted to read them first, obviously, which is going to like higher the probability of me finding a 5-star read, and I found 2 of them in today's video, which is actually very funny because when I did this video a few months ago, I think I found 2 5-star reads in that one as well, which was Wild Love and Just for the Summer. Watch that video if you didn't, but this is one of my favorite videos to film because I feel like it's my time to kind of pick my most anticipated reads of the books that I have and try to find a 5-star out of them and just enjoy my reading experience. And it was even better because it was on my family vacation where I just took some time and set aside to read all of these books. Honestly, this was like one of probably my best rated reading vlogs because all of these books were 4 or above. Like not a single one was under 4 stars, which is kind of unheard of for me because if you guys are not a frequent viewer of my channel, or if this is somehow your first video of me, do not expect this. Unfortunately, I would love if all my reading vlogs could be like a 4 and above, but I am just a very critical person. Stay tuned for some more reading vlogs this month. I'm very excited for all of the ones I have planned out. And let me know any of your thoughts on any of these books or any of the other books that I packed with me. And I will see you guys when I see ya. Peace.